Hello, all of you beautiful people that love democracy. I'm Alexander Valiency Kent. Let's talk about political corruption and a viable solution. Yes, let's solve political corruption right here, right now. Why? Why solve political corruption? This is what breaks democratic republics. It is the reason all failed democracies in all of human history internally fall to authoritarianism. It happened in Germany in the 1930s when the Weimar Republic fell to the authoritarian Nazi Third Reich. And political corruption is why the political system in the US has become increasingly authoritarian, increasingly less democratic. It moved increasingly further and further away from the real will of the people over the last 50 years. Political corruption destabilizes democracy because it is antithetical to, it is completely against the ideologies of political freedom, self-governance, and popular sovereignty, which are the libertarian trinity of democratic republicanism. God, I love democracy. Political corruption is why voters are always ignored, why the same horrific systemic problems our great-grandparents in the U.S. had, like perpetual war, widespread poverty, and other issues, still exist today. This is what leads to immense amounts of very preventable, but often intentionally created, systemic human suffering, and always has. Political corruption is what creates this giant chasm between the real will of the people, what voters want, and the public agenda, what government actually does. Financial political corruption also looks and sounds the same at all levels of government and in all countries and government types. Financial political corruption occurs when money, goods, or services are given to political officials in exchange for a desired political decision, action, or inaction. Same dynamic with similar horrific consequences has happened everywhere humans have lived for thousands of years. The biggest hurdle we face in the US in relation to political corruption is that most of it is legal. When voters scrape together $50, $100 to donate to a candidate, that's corruption. A very, very, very mild form of corruption. I've done it twice, but it's corruption. And of course, when big donors, lobbyists, and super PACs donate millions and millions that total billions and billions of dollars, that's extreme corruption that leads directly to the worst systemic problems: perpetual war, widespread poverty, poisoned food, unaffordable healthcare, education, and shelter. All of the systemic problems start from political corruption. Without political corruption, democratic republics would just do democracy and constitutional democratic republicanism correctly. Elected officials would ask all of their voters in some way, hey, how can your government public servants serve you? And they would listen to voters and they would do it. They would relentlessly learn and implement the real will of the people. That's what democratic republics are supposed to do. That's what the Constitution demands. Novel concept, though, this idea of asking all voters something. It sounds so democratic republican and so representative. And asking all voters something would be very easy to do online and is the essence of voter-directed network. But even before the internet, we could have asked all voters something using landlines, or even before that, via the mail. We have mail-in ballots. Why not mail-in votes? Not for everything, but for the big stuff. Mail out questions 3-4 times a year to ask all voters directly their yes-no votes on the most important things. We could have done that in the 1800s, but we didn't. We've never asked all voters anything. Why? It's like the whole party-driven system is a carefully designed divide-and-conquer political strategy that was created to manufacture an illusion of choice in order to control wealth and power. Whoa. And it's important to remember that this isn't about any individual elected official. This is about the system above them that has been in control for centuries. Good, moral people get elected, especially locally, all the time. There's not a ton of political corruption outside of big cities below the state level. But at the federal and state level, you're not going to get good moral results if the system they are in is broken, flawed, divisive, and corrupt. You have to look beyond any individual and beyond the crises of the moment or even this past decade and focus on the systems that have been in control for over 2 centuries. The party-driven system is a belief system. It has no body, it has no face, and because of that, it hides in plain sight. That party-driven belief system, the party-driven mindset, is what the online political evolution on voter-directed network is trying to evolve the political system beyond. Anyway, all political donations are political corruption because they come with an expectation. You're giving money so the government official does or continues to do what you want. That expectation is the corruption. For most donors, it's a relatively small amount of money that doesn't really do anything. But that's still not democracy, where political power should be equally distributed in the hands of all voters and completely separate from the influence of money. So how do we change something that's perfectly legal? We could, of course, change the laws and make all corruption illegal. Or we could publicly fund elections or limit contributions in various ways like many less politically corrupt countries. But that will never happen. The broken, flawed, immensely corrupt, often violent, incredibly divisive, and increasingly authoritarian party-driven system will not take steps to reduce corruption. Good, moral voters and NGOs have been trying to pass these anti-corruption policies for decades. But the party-driven system benefits immensely from corruption, the resulting systemic human suffering, and maintaining the status quo of widespread political corruption. The corruption, the systemic human suffering, and the party-driven system are the status quo of the last 2 centuries. You cannot separate them. So what now? What's the solution to corruption? Well, corruption is always the same for any institution. The solution to political corruption, corruption in a university, a for-profit, non-profit, NGO, it's all the same. To solve corruption, you change the system to create greater transparency and accountability. Transparency and accountability are the solution to corruption anywhere. And for political corruption, the solution is evolution, the online political evolution on voter-directed network, bringing our democratic republics into the digital age, having voters vote on everything at all levels of government, and giving all elected officials direct access to all of our collective knowledge, wisdom, and expertise about all of our social, political, and economic issues for the first time in human history. The online political evolution on voter-directed network would create a clear public mandate for every political decision. This is what voter-directed network was designed to do: mass accountability and transparency on every single issue. Echo chambers are also impossible on voter-directed network. Each state and federal constituency has its own virtual room that only their verified voters can post, comment, react, and vote in. But the walls and doors of the rooms are glass. They are completely transparent. Any voter can see all content on all of voter-directed network. So only verified Wisconsin voters can post, comment, and react in the Wisconsin virtual room. But any voter can see any content in our virtual room and any other virtual room on voter-directed network. So let's try to solve political corruption with the online political evolution on voter-directed network. And there's basically no risk. We can and should implement the online political evolution without any legislative bill, executive order, judicial decision, or constitutional amendment at any level. The OPE is a two-way door. We can always pivot back to the broken, flawed, violent, and corrupt party-driven system if we want. Thank you for watching, and thank you so much for how you care, love, support, and help other people. The vast majority of voters are such good, kind, and hardworking people. It's authoritarian government that has always held us back and creates so much evil. Check out the essay, All Donations Are Political Corruption, linked below, and the book, Voter-Directed Democracy, for full details. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Please tell us what you think.